people's time. If everybody can just mute themselves now, we'd appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all and thank Kristen Mulvoy for managing this meeting for us. We just thought for safety reasons and organization readings to have somebody manage and watch the wait room through the whole meeting. So thank you, Kristen. I just want to make sure that you all remain muted during the meeting. Thank you again for collecting all the questions from your grades. By keeping muted this way, we can have Colleen and Kim present to us and the PA presidents and Sam as quickly as possible. I would encourage you all to go to the center, bottom of your Zoom screen and open the Zoom chat on the right. We plan to record the meeting so that we have a record of it. And if you have any questions that you feel have not been addressed, please type them in the chat corner. The PA presidents are going to keep track of them, and we will make sure that all the questions get answered that you have after Kim and Colleen present. So at this point, I'd like to thank Megan, Heather, and Roz. And Sam, we've been spending a lot of time on the phone together, and I'm going to turn it over to Roz, who's going to say the prayer for us.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. So let us put ourselves in the presence of God with a prayer from Cornelia Connolly. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Let us love one another and pray. Let us love one another and be faithful. Let us love one another and be humble. Be filled with the charity of God. Let us love one another with God, in God, and for God, and we shall thus be one with him for all eternity. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so much. And I think Heather is going to give us an update on a couple of things.
Yes, so good morning again. As Tony said, we really just appreciate you all being here. It's been kind of a crazy time. And as our PA reps, it's a really great way to have you involved so that you can get information out to our classes. We're trying to do the best that we can with providing enough information, but not too much information. So we appreciate you getting the feedback, getting it back to us so we could get it back to Kim and Colleen. The only thing that we wanted to really bring up at this time is we're meeting as an exec board after this meeting. We do have some money left over that was earmarked from the Christmas fund that solely goes to faculty and staff. So that, in conjunction with some other money that we will not be using this year, because we probably can't be doing things at school, we'd like to give the teachers a little bit at the end of the year just to say thank you for going the extra mile in these times. So once we get that out to the exec board and vote on it, we'll let you know. But thanks again for your support. None of us could do it without all of you. And Megan's gonna do a quick, Megan, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Thought we were doing this later, but okay. So I also wanted to let you know this morning, thank you all for being here. In these times, even though we're not all together, we still wanted as a PA to take the time to recognize someone, and we are going to do the PA Faculty Distinguished Award. So Marguerite, thankfully, has been so kind to help us get our survey back up, and shortly in Newslines, we're gonna put that back up and have everybody take the opportunity to vote and elect somebody in the building. As you know, Tony Santangelo, Colleen Pettis, and Chef Karen are our previous winners, and we just thought, given that we're not all together, it would be a really nice time to recognize somebody in the building that has gone above and beyond that we all think. I mean, everybody's gone above and beyond, but we just thought it would be a nice way as our Holy Child community to be together and to support one another. So we are going to continue with the PA Faculty Distinguished Award and look for that to come in Newslines following. Okay, I think are we ready for Kim and Colleen? Thank you guys so much for joining.
Of course. Hi, everybody. Colleen and I are just gonna kind of jump in on the different areas that we are each sort of respectively working on, even though, as you can imagine, Colleen and I talk constantly. But just a couple of things I wanted to mention before I jump into some of the questions that I was sent. Just the first is just about events. Those of you who are senior parents, you probably saw the little message that I sent out just to the seniors yesterday, just to touch base with them. As you can imagine, as I know you all feel and we feel, just really awful for the seniors that this is their senior spring. So I just wanted to, so you've heard a little bit of this already, but I just wanted to touch base on that quickly. So as Melissa noted in Newslines last week, we are now extending distance learning through May 15th at least. And as you know, there are a ton of events. This time of year is when we have all of sort of our culminating end of the school year events. That were supposed to happen before the 15th. So just in the next couple of weeks, this week was the all school dance performance, next week arts night and the spring concert, the following week the middle school fun dance, and then following that was the seniors' last day of classes. So even before the 15th, and many more, that's just to name a few things that are coming, you know, in the next couple of weeks. So so we are, of course, those events through the 15th. There's a team of us, we're actually meeting again at 1:30 today, sort of working on celebrating those events as best we can away from school. And you'll be seeing a lot about those, anything that's happening before the 15th. All of the events happening after the 15th, some of our most important events of the year, all of the important end of year events for the seniors, things like moving up day, even things that the girls have reached out to me about several times, like skirt signing, just so many things that are scheduled for after the 15th. We are in that team, and a couple of students are also involved in that process, working on behind the scenes sort of a backup plan. If we do have to postpone, change, alter anything, we will have plans in place for all of those events. But for now, we are operating on that May 15th date in the hopes that maybe there will be some things that we are able to celebrate in the way we would like. But as we watch that constantly sort of evolving situation, as soon as we have, we move forward beyond that May 15th date, we will of course reach out with all of our final plans and formally announce any changes to anything happening after May 15th. For right now though, we will be communicating on all of the events before May 15th, and we will just be in touch on those very soon. We're just really watching that situation, listening to all of the state guidelines, and planning for changes and postponements that we wish we didn't have to make. But right now, holding off a little bit longer before we sort of finalize or announce anything on that. So just wanted to say that quickly. Then the second piece is just regarding communication. I know communication came up quite a bit in the questions to all of you when you sent out questions to families. So I just wanted to go over sort of our communication plan, what was already in place. Obviously, Holy Week was a very short week, and then the following week we didn't have a Monday, you know, and then we went into Easter and we didn't have Monday. So several of these days sort of fell into that, but some of these things were happening before that, and then there are some things we have added going forward. So, so I hope most of you were able to watch the look ahead that I sent out yesterday with a lot of important information, and also just to sort of touch base. I will always direct those to the girls, but they will always be shared with parents and the full faculty and staff as well, just so you know, and those will be happening every Sunday. And then on Monday mornings, Melissa will always do that Monday morning prayer, always. Someone will do a prayer every morning at 8 a.m., but Melissa will always do that first of the week, and usually share some important reminders for the week then too, or just things she wants the girls to think about for the week as well. Then following that Monday prayer, we will have a 9 a.m. morning meeting. And just so you know, the morning meetings are really for the students and the faculty and staff, just like they were when we were in the building. We had a regular morning meeting, and that's really for the girls and the faculty and staff. But if there is information in that meeting that we feel should be shared with parents as well, we will of course share those recordings with you, and they will be recorded and shared with the girls every Monday. Then Wednesday, we have our advisor meeting, which is a touch base for the girls. The advisors have been sharing a lot of information with the girls, as you can imagine, in this new reality. So that will continue. And then they will also just do a check-in with the girls every Wednesday, see how they're doing, follow up with them about specific classes where there are concerns or issues. And the advisors have been great about following up directly with myself and Colleen, and also with their colleagues if there is a concern that's raised. And then, so the advisors are doing that Wednesday. Then Thursday, of course, Newslines goes out, which is very, very full. I know lots of information in Newslines, but that goes out on Thursdays. And also on Thursdays, Catherine and JB They were doing this before we moved to Teams, but they had their first Teams meeting with the entire junior class on Thursday. They have those every Thursday now that all of the juniors are enrolled in college counseling. And this past week, they covered a ton of information. I know the girls that I spoke to said it was, and some of the junior parents also said that it was helpful. It was really helpful information. It's just about college process, about course selection, about things like requesting recommendation letters for teachers, all of the things they would normally cover in their classes. They are still having open sessions with juniors. They split the class in half and do that every single Thursday. Then after that meeting, if there's information that they feel is important to share out with parents, they do that as well, which they did last Friday. They sent an email to the entire junior class and their families last Friday, kind of a follow-up to what was in Newslines. And a targeted email was also sent to the seniors as well. So we're using that Friday to sort of follow up with grade level specific concerns via email. So we are trying to make sure that there is some communication touch point almost daily, with the exception of Tuesday during the week. There is communication that is going out, and that is our plan for now and our plan going forward. So, so just be on the lookout for those. Colleen, did you want to jump in with anything on any of that?
More, Kim, actually, before we get into the specific questions that we're going to address, if I could just say just a couple of maybe overarching messages that I know. Good morning, everybody. I can't see you all, of course, on the same screen at the same time, but if you work here in the building, I know people have heard these messages over and over again, but they absolutely apply to you as well. And I know that they've been in different communications that Melissa has sent out. And again, we're going to get very specific into the questions that you've posed, but these three things I hope can kind of always be in our minds, in the backs of our minds, and certainly have been like the underlying message of all of our communications with our faculty and staff. First is a great amount of empathy. Of course, we start with empathy for humanity, but then we then look at all the different groups that we're a part of, that we're dealing with, issues that we're dealing with for the very first time. And you certainly have never been a parent during a pandemic, neither have I. We have never been administrators. Teachers have never had to be distance teachers before. Teachers went into teaching, as you know, so they could be with kids and be with one another every day. And there is a huge learning curve here, not just the technology. And, you know, everybody is on a different part of the spectrum related to their technological skills. And that's a fact. And that's a fact in all schools. So we've been meeting each teacher kind of where they are, just as we try to meet the girls where they are when they're in the classroom. But also how best to teach with distance learning, right? That's the whole pedagogy part. It's not just seeing one another on a screen. There are really good and important and different ways to use live sessions. And it's not necessarily for 50 minutes as a live session would be in school and in the classroom. So in addition to Kim, Michelle Sherry is my new best friend. And Michelle and I talk multiple times a day. And while Kim relayed all of the communication and the different ways we're communicating with the external community, Michelle and I are taping ourselves, emailing, live sessions. We're every possible stop in terms of making sure we're getting the communication out. And we know that there are still things that come up that have certainly been addressed, but the empathy and flexibility is there, but also the expectation is there as well. Patience is the other one. Patience with everything, everyone within our own homes, people that we work with this situation, with our students, with our teachers. We talk about, a lot of times when you think of patience, it's patience with other people. And I think a lot of us need patience with ourselves at this time. And that's also been a message to teachers, making sure that they ask questions when they need to ask them, that they just don't try to get by, that they're, if they don't know something, just ask and we're gonna help them. So patience. And then just perspective. And I think, you know, many of you know I'm a parent as well, and I have 5 different schools and different rules and different expectations in my house from middle school to college right now. And keeping a perspective every day, it's just how are we doing? You know, making sure that everybody's feeling good, that if we can get out in the sunshine, and that message of connection over content. And we could talk a little bit more later about that. I know there was a question about mastery and so forth, and we'll discuss that. But just connecting, with our families, and of course the teachers and students, and we're going to do that the very best way we can. So I just wanted to make sure you heard the exact same messages that our faculty and staff are hearing each week, and they bear repeating each week because of the situation we're in. So Kim, maybe we can now jump into some of these questions.
Sure. So some of them, the earlier questions, I think were answered a little bit in some of the things I mentioned about communication and about events, end of the year events, because I know that there are questions about that too. One of the questions that I received from you all, and also from a separate parent conversation, was just the question about, is anyone still allowed to use Zoom? And just to answer that question, while we are moving to Teams for anything student related, so whether it's a one-on-one sort of math lab help for a student, or it's a full class or advisor, that is all through Teams. We have told teachers, if they're having an adults only sort of conversation, a faculty meeting, something like that, something like this even, as long as it's adults, faculty members or parents, that they can certainly use Zoom if they'd like, but our goal is to try to be doing almost everything through Teams. So I just wanted to answer that question first. No, kids are not using Zoom for Holy Child purposes at all anymore. Then just moving ahead, I also got a question about Newslines and sort of highlighting different things that are going on in the building. And I just wanted to say, yes, Paul Castiglio, along with Sam and the whole team that sort of works on, the entire school community really works on getting information into Newslines, but he is trying, every week there is definitely highlighting members of campus ministry, highlighting the college guidance office. Kirsten Mills has also posted a bit in Newslines, and where needed, whenever we need to highlight another individual in the building, we are certainly using Newslines to do that. That was a question. Can we use Newslines to sort of highlight different people, to make the girls aware of all the resources that they have? That is certainly something that we are already doing and will continue to try to do in a very focused way. Colleen, did you want to jump in on that at all, or?
I guess I'm just making sure that I understand the question. Like, for example, our learning specialist or something like that, right? Is that maybe what people are talking about? That
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. I feel like our Newslines, in particular, during this time, is really emblematic of all that Holy Child tries to do. Trying to do all these things virtually, putting together a virtual Ring Day, I think may be harder than an actual Ring Day. And the people involved in Ring Day, Tony, Jackie, I see all your heads shaking. Putting together anything virtually is harder than having people in the room together. But no, I think that's a wonderful idea. And of course, the whole IA team is open to that. And if there's a need to maybe highlight that more during this time, rather than being able to make those connections in person, that's of course absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm just going to jump to this question. There's a question about current juniors and really just current students and the fall. Will there be shifts in the fall made to accommodate things that juniors were not able to do this year, like college visits, things like community service that students were not able to complete, obviously? Yes, of course, we will have to shift what we do in the fall. Just in the classroom itself, there will have to be review for things that we weren't able to touch on because we were away this year, things that it's different, and so that will change what we have to do in the fall. In terms of specifics on that, there were some very specific questions about additional dates for juniors to go on college visits, changes to the community service hour requirement. We are certainly going to make a host of adjustments in the fall, and we will communicate those later on. Right now we're focused on this year, but we will certainly be there will be things that will have to be changed in the fall. We will of course communicate those as soon as they're all final and ready to go for next year. Go ahead.
Another word, another need at this time is great flexibility. We're kind of tested every single day to be flexible, and our kids are being tested to be flexible, maybe in ways that they never have before, and resilient and all of that. But we have had to pivot. Obviously, you saw a major pivot from Zoom to Teams, which was not done lightly at all. And we're going to continue to have to pivot. So all those things in due time. We're just trying to make sure that we handle the things that are most immediate.
Right. And then just specifically that community service piece,
Mhm.
obviously there is no expectation that students are able to complete their community service hours right now with all that's going on. I know there have been girls who have really taken initiative to do such amazing things just to help the cause, not even concerned about community service hours, just because they want to put some good into the world. I've been so impressed by, I mean, I'm always impressed by the girls, but I've been really impressed by that with some of our students and faculty as well, and parents. Some of the things that people have been able to, some of the, you know, the silver linings that you see in a time like this is really impressive. But there is no expectation that they will complete those hours. And obviously for those students, we will have to adjust that overall requirement. So please tell the girls that they are worried about that, not to worry about it. And we'll reach out with more information on that. A question came up about fall schedules and requests for fall schedules. Hopefully, if you saw the Sunday look ahead, you know that process has already, you know, it's ongoing throughout the years. It starts really, you know, in ninth grade, just the conversations they're having with their advisors, and then the one-on-one conversations that 10th graders have with me and with their advisors, and then the one-on-one conversations that the juniors have with Catherine and JB. So that process has begun. Those conversations have been happening. And then the formal process of course selection will begin this week. And this week, really, it's mostly me sharing information on that process with the students. That process always begins with the oldest students in the building, so the current juniors. They will hear all of the information. Normally, I would do this with them live. I would have a session with them. Marguerite joins me, and I talk to them about they've already had these conversations with JB and Catherine, but then I talk to them about the process itself. They have copies of the course catalog and the One Schoolhouse course catalog. We go over sort of that process of selecting courses along with your college advisor and your parents and guidance from parents. And then the link is opened in Veracross for them to select those courses. So anything they are required to take or anything they have been recommended to take is already placed in Veracross for them. So when they log in, they can see everything they already have to do. Then on top of that are all the things they can select to do. And those will be in there. You will be I will be CCing all the parents on that communication to the girls, just so you can hear about the process as well. And I'll be sharing in that communication a lot of information in a recording, just so you have it, so you can go back and reference it when the girls are actually in Veracross, actually selecting those classes. Once they have received all that information, the 11th grade will get it, the 10th grade, then the 9s, and then it moves down to the middle school. Once they receive that information from me, which forgive me in advance for what will be a very long recording, once they receive that information, if the girls, as I said yesterday, if the girls have additional concerns, if they were unable to meet with one of us before, or they would like a follow-up meeting, they can reach out to me or Catherine or JB right away and schedule those meetings, follow-up meetings. And that will all be included in this. So that will happen towards the end of this week. And I can answer any questions that they have, and the girls can set up any face-to-face time with me that they would like. And I've had several of them just this past week. I've had several meetings with girls, and those will continue. Then I answered about the volunteer hours and fall schedules. If you want to come up here, Colleen, some of this is very teacher specific.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump in?
Yeah,
on
I can
it?
jump right in there. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Okay, first and foremost, as we were talking about the virtual ring day, managing a group of 60 plus people remotely is not anything that anyone would choose to do. That being said, Kim and I, as she referred to before, doing our very, very best to keep everyone on the same page as possible, with, of course, people's individuality as well. But this is certainly a time where people being much more aligned is very important. Some of the things that you have brought up in terms of too much work on some days, not enough work on other days. You know, as those of you, especially in education, know, unfortunately, that happens a lot. And that happens when we're here in the building as well. So we have been working with departments and with department chairs. And actually we're, to be a little specific, we're getting some feedback, from the ninth graders, that their work just seems to be at a higher level, just in terms of the amount of work due on a weekly basis. So Kim and I are already planning on meeting with the ninth grade team. And again, trying to find that balance between saying you can only give 2 assignments per week, versus we're looking at about this much, and calling everything homework, right? Because no longer is there classwork, right? We know we were dealing with time stamping of assignments, and where teachers in the beginning perhaps were asking for assignments to be done during a specific class period. We have told them that they cannot do that, right? And this is all along the lines of that flexibility. It's not just flexibility for adults, it's flexibility for children and for families. So there's that. There is the question of the live class, right? And I know in our minds, we may be able to kind of equate a live class equals real teaching, right? Or the teaching that would be happening in the classroom. Live classes, first of all, if not used well, could be actually unproductive, right? If girls are just look to stare at a screen and just listen to somebody talk for 50 minutes, that is not the best use of a live class. So moving, now that we've had our week of transition to Teams, and I know there was some frustration with moving away largely from the live classes last week. It was a shortened week, but again, we needed that training time for teachers, and that was unavoidable. This week, each of the teachers, and we reiterated this with them yesterday, they will certainly have one live check-in with each of their classes, and that session can be different for each class. It can be a live teaching session. It can be a study session, a question and answer session. So there's a lot of ways to connect with girls live, and I think, and every student is also different in terms of what they prefer as well, in terms of that. So that is definitely happening this week. We have also very much put out the recommendation of planning for the week, right? Of being able to put up homework on a Sunday evening so that the students and the teacher can kind of see how their week's going to go. Again, they may have to pivot midweek. Something could have happened where they didn't have a class that was planned and they need to make a change, and we always have to allow for that flexibility and those changes. But to be able, for the girls to be able to kind of see their week and look ahead. Sometimes, and again, I think these are few and far between, but they were happening. People may be posting something on the day it's due. Again, that message reiterated last night. We kind of sent out, or I sent out, 5 major things to remember for this week, and that was one of them. Okay, not to post on the same day. If some of these things are happening and continue to happen, and I truly do not think they will. I know Kim and I are reaching out to individual teachers if we get feedback from them. And just last week I had a conversation with one, and he said, Colleen, I absolutely was doing that week 1, but I haven't done that since, so I'm going to check in with my girls and make sure that everything is clear now. So I think there is some things that maybe are residual that were happening and hopefully are not happening any longer. But with our constant support and the information, that we're getting, but also that the girls are definitely giving to their teachers. This is a topic that I brought up with Kim last week. At Holy Child, we pride ourselves on the advocacy of our students, their self-advocacy. And I hope that is not something lost during this time, that if they don't know something, or if something is really troubling them in terms of their class, they reach out directly to their teacher, depending upon their age, I understand, but certainly for our older girls, to be able to reach out, ask that question directly of the teacher, and ideally it can get handled right there. Someone asked a question about teachers getting back to students. What's the time frame? It's a 24-hour time frame, okay? And if that doesn't happen within 24 hours, it should, okay? And that is something, that we need to fix. But it's a 24-hour time frame. If they needed that answer in order to complete an assignment, that was another question. How does that affect due dates or deadlines? When we put out our assessment criteria for the remainder of distance learning, we talked about, of course, mastery, which we can address in a minute, but also engagement. And within that was looking at the need to be flexible with deadlines when reasonable, okay, when appropriate. So these are all things that, that again, when needed, to remind the teachers, certainly, they are all, everything that they're doing, there's no doubt, and they've heard me say this to them myself, they're all doing it from trying to be the very best distance teacher they can be. So if they're over assigning, it's because they want to make sure they're doing their jobs well. And it's just guidance and help along the way to just be sure the expectations are manageable for the girls. I think I hit on most of those questions, but I'll certainly be checking the chat as well. Kim, anything you want to jump in on there?
No, I don't think so. I just reinforce, just important to note, and I know, that self-advocacy that we really want to instill in the girls is particularly at that high school level. If the girls are struggling with teachers and they reach out, it is just so important that they reach out to them directly. Now, as Colleen mentioned, there is that 24-hour teachers should get back to them. And if they're not, then they should, of course, follow up with me. They can absolutely follow up with me or their advisor, and we can follow up directly. But just so important that if the teachers are struggling in a class, if the students are struggling with a specific teacher or class and their workload or communication wise, or if there are particular issues, we want to just make sure that the girls are really trying to reach out and advocate for themselves when they can and when it makes sense.
I'm just looking over the list, just being sure we've hit most things. I see something here in terms of some parents, and again, this is general. I don't know how many, I don't know what grades, feeling like they need to initiate a concern with the school rather than the school initiating with them. That is something, again, that is a message being proactive rather than reactive. That is something that people here have heard me say many times. Ideally, when there is a concern, and I know many teachers certainly are doing this, teachers, advisors, Kim, I'm privy to certainly some parent communication that has to happen. I think overwhelmingly our girls are doing quite well with this. They truly are. Their engagement, they're checking in their attendance, communicating when they need to. But I wouldn't say, if you haven't heard anything, to assume that there's some concerns to share. I think of course the major concerns are the ones that always rise to the top, and I do believe that those are being addressed again by a variety of people. Kim, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, so just so you know, the student support meetings that we used to have when we were in the building have continued virtually. We have a team of advisors, myself, Kirsten Mills, a number of the Fiona Kelly and Kate Anklowitz from the Learning Center. So just so you know how we handle it, if a student doesn't check in, let's say for a class, if they're invited to a live session and they don't check in, the teacher reaches out after the class and says, we missed you today. What happened? And usually in most cases, a student will reach back out and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I either couldn't get in or I didn't see it right away. That's almost always what happens. If the student doesn't respond though, then the teacher and the advisor will just reach back out and CC the parents. And most of that is, we don't know what some families might be experiencing right now, what might be going on in different homes. So we just want to always just keep parents informed, just to make sure you're Molly or whoever, Annie, Susie is not checking in right now. And we just want to make sure you're aware of that and can let us know that everything's okay. Is she doing okay? Is there anything that we need to do to reach out? So that is that plan that we have in place to reach out to students. And then also Fiona Kelly and occasionally Kirsten, if we feel that's helpful. I'll follow up with one of them, or an advisor will follow up with one of them and say, could you reach out to the student? I know this isn't a student maybe you've worked with before, but she's really struggling. She could use your help in planning the week. And Fiona will reach out and help with that, or Kirsten will reach out to schedule a touch base. So just so you're aware, all those supports that were happening when we were in the building are continuing, just in a different way.
I see two questions that came in, one from Sheila. Yes, so there's the one live check-in requirement, Sheila, but in addition to that, what other means of instruction can the girls expect? Certainly tape lectures are definitely happening, no question about it. And that's a concept of the flipped classroom, where the flipped classroom can be used when we're here in the building as well, where teachers will tape themselves. It's particularly instructive in math, as well as in science. I know it's being used often, where the teachers tape their lecture. they're able to post that link for the girls to see. As you can imagine, they're able to re-see it and re-see it, however often they need. It's actually a very good strategy for distance learning. And then when the teacher has the live check-in, they're able to ask those questions, okay, related to that. There's also, of course, readings, obviously. There's blogs going on. There's different videos that the kids are watching, historical videos, whatever that may be related to their content. They're doing a lot of writing. They're keeping up with their writing, their essay writing, and so forth. So hopefully, Sheila, that answers the question a little bit. And Jen, Tyler, yes, Melissa, I actually work on the morning prayers and messages with Paul Castiglio. Melissa does every Monday, and then we look at what would have been going on this week, as Kim referred to. So this week we have kind of an Earth Day theme and a dance rehearsal, dance recital theme for the rest of this week. So yes, Melissa's every Monday morning.
And then Kathy, I see this post that you just added about the teachers posting assignments by a certain time. And yes, that is something Colleen has very directly addressed, and we can continue to address. Just like when we were in the building, anything due the following day, the expectation is that it's posted by 4 p.m. the day before. And as Colleen also mentioned, even if, let's say, a student's math class meets at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, even if they're meeting then, we've asked the teachers not to make any requests like, this is due by 9 a.m. on Tuesday, just because you don't know when students are able to log in or use their devices. So we've just said you can give them a date when something is due, but not a time. It just makes it a little bit easier for all families who are in a variety of different circumstances right now.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, when I was a high school teacher, I would have the best laid plans for the week. And then depending upon how the class went, I'd have to pivot, right, and adjust. So we have to always remember there will be some adjustments, okay, at times, but we are just doing our very best to kind of keep these expectations as clear as possible for the girls.
I think we've covered everything on the list we were given. Is that good?
Yeah, with some other messages as well, I think, yep. Last one, Nicole, I see about the posting of assignments, okay? And again, those of us on this call are in the building, if they've heard us talk about the Veracross assignment calendar, they certainly know that, and this is one of those things that absolutely was not airtight at the beginning, totally, okay? Again, a part of the adjustment, but I do believe the girls are seeing almost everything they need populate in their assignment calendars. Some were posted on their website. Some were using email in the beginning. And again, all coming from a good place. I want to make sure they get the information, right? I don't maybe trust this, so I'm going to email them anyway. So all coming from a good place, but I do believe we've done a good job at funneling, funneling everything through that. There's been some questions related to teachers maybe using Google Classroom, and we're going to get to the bottom of that a little bit this week, Kim and I. But I believe we're in better shape. Okay, they should be seeing that on their Google Classroom. Okay.
Just a reminder to parents: anything that the girls can see on their assignment calendars, parents can also see. Just so if you log into the parent portal, you can see all of those assignments.
Kim and Colleen, thank you so much for your time today. I think everybody appreciates it. We had wonderful attendance. So we'll let you go, and then Sam Hanley will continue with her part of the meeting. Thank you again, Kim and Colleen.
Okay, thanks everybody. I
Take
hope you're
care.
well. I hope your families stay well and healthy.
Bye, everyone.
It's so nice to see all of you. I miss being at school and seeing the girls, and so thank you for being on the call this morning. And I'll only keep this to like 2 or 3 minutes. Just wanted to update you on some things from the institutional advancement side. First, specifically, and at the top of our list is the benefit. As you know, that would have been this Friday, and we would have been honoring the Pagnanis and Carolyn Walters. And in light of everything that's gone on, we hit a pause on that and said we are not having an in-person benefit right now. And what we have decided to do, while we are waiting on a confirmation from our honorees, but we are planning to have our benefit next spring. We are going to move to next April. We wanted to be able to honor Katie, Keith, and Miss Walters in the best way possible. And we felt that would be done best in person. Obviously, it's disappointing for us now, but it's better to do it at a time when we can all be together. Recognizing, of course, that we raised a lot of money from that event, the monies that have already been raised will be able to move into next year, so that if someone's purchased a sponsorship, tickets, that will all roll over. You'll be able to attend next year, and those who haven't yet done it will be able to respond when the new date is out. Just for sake of knowing date, we're looking at approximately April 16th, a Friday. So just waiting on a few confirmations there. Hope to announce that to the community in an email on Wednesday of this week. That said, a lot of revenue comes into the school for that, and we recognize during this time fundraising is hard, so we have hit a pause on our annual fund, but we do hope as things open up in the world, hopefully in May, that we'll be able to reach out to our community to participate in fundraising for the school in some way, but have not set any final dates on that. Couple of other things to touch on. Communications is big part of what's happening every day. You should know that we take it very seriously in terms of making sure everyone gets information. We want to share good news. We want to remind people about Holy Child and what our community really is all about, and it's sort of that special place. So I wanted to point out a couple of things. In Newslines, I want to say 2 Newslines ago, there was a link to our annual magazine, which included a graduation insert. Some of you may have seen that link. It's in the mail. Because it goes through nonprofit bulk rate, we're thinking that it's not hitting your mailboxes as soon as we would like it to. We're going to resend those links out this week so people will get to take a look at glimpses. It's a great way to be reminded about our school and the wonderful things that happened in the last year, as well as celebrate the graduation from last year. So that will be out this week. Some other things I would hope that you would follow. We are on Instagram trying to highlight our alums in the front lines. We're also looking to highlight parents and other community members. So if you know or have a story you'd like to share with us, willing to highlight on Instagram, please reach out to myself or Paul Castiglio or Tony. We are also starting this week a senior spotlight. So the senior girls, one way we're trying to celebrate them is we have asked them to fill out a questionnaire about themselves. And each day throughout the next 6 weeks, we will be highlighting one senior talking about her time at Holy Child and where she's going to college. That will be done on the Holy Child Instagram. It's called Senior Spotlight. So look for that. The first one will be today. Additionally, the girls, the senior class, have created their own Instagram called Holy Child Seniors. And it's simply about where they're going, sort of making their announcement about what school. We've never done that before, but we wanted to give the girls a way to highlight themselves. I would remind you that to check it out, follow them on Instagram. So it's Holy Child Seniors. Additionally, I would also say that there is a prayer group, Prayer Buddies. So seeing that in Newslines, just wanted to give you a shout out on that. If you want to pray for someone or would like someone in your family prayed for, or you want to be someone who is praying, please sign up for that. That's in Newslines. Other than that, I don't have more to share right now, but welcome questions. If you want to have any quick questions for me, I'm happy to answer them as it relates to anything in terms of IA. As I've always said to you, my door is always open. So my Zoom meeting and my cell phone are open to all of you if you need me or have questions or thoughts on what we're doing. And I think that's it. Hold on. I'm looking at the chat. Oh, Jackie is saying that the first senior spotlight has already been posted. And yes, Kathy, we can make the prayer more visible. Anything else? Okay. Tony? Tony, you're on mute.
Mindy, we'll get those questions to Kim and Colleen, and we'll have them answer that, and we will get something back out through the reps, so that question will absolutely get answered.
The other thing is we're looking into, and hopefully we'll be able to take this recording. Kristen has recorded it, and we're hoping to provide you a link later today so that, or tomorrow, that you will be able to post. We'll have you send an email to your classes saying, here's the rep meeting, so everybody can listen to this. I think it was very informational. The plan is for the PA meeting, just so you all know, for security reasons, Kristen will run the meeting again. We will announce in Newslines that the PA meeting will be Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and we will send an email to everyone at 9 o'clock on Friday morning with the meeting link and information. So then on Friday morning, everybody can just join at 10, and Melissa will run the meeting. It will be in the same format. If anybody has additional questions after today's meeting or that you hear, please send them along once again to Heather, Megan, and Roz so that we can move forward. So if there aren't any other questions, I would like to say thank you to the reps and ask the PA exec board to stay on. One last thing, I'd like to meet with the senior reps probably later in the week, just so you know, behind the scenes, we are working on so many events, as Kim said. From her standpoint, I've been talking to faculty and our institutional advancement team today. So there's many groups working on events for the girls. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful day.